It's me, VDK again, and today I got a little bit under our little new content management AI, nicknamed Arcades, to talk about something that I guess is like now just gone past, it's evolved and I can't control it now. The meme is self-sustaining. And that's the Mothman paradox. So as all of you know, the new deck came out for the Mutant Menace deck, and I have several thoughts. My first thought, before I get into it though, I'm going to give like a few seconds, because these thoughts aren't going to be positive, to allow people who would like to play this deck or are excited for this to not have to listen to this video, because it's kind of going to be not a nice video about it. I'm about to tear it a new one. So I'm going to count to 10 and then give you a little bit of time to like not be on this video. Okay, cool. Don't buy this freaking deck. It's terrible. It's the worst commander deck I've ever seen them print. And I actually bought that 5-color Planeswalker deck that they did for Dominaria Remastered and United. And this is the worst product I've ever seen them put out. Now you might be asking, why is that? So usually with the commander decks, before about like 2022-ish, 2021, they had, at least when they were building the sub-themes in the deck, they could at least be parallel with the deck in terms of what it wants to do. This one doesn't even try to do that. It is the most xenophobic, most just bad deck I've ever seen them promote. And for $65? And you want me to be like, oh yeah, this is a premium product? Absolutely not. Buy the Caesar deck, buy the Dog Meat deck. Don't buy those. Don't buy the Mutant Menace deck. It is terrible. Heck, don't even buy it if it's the only deck there. Buy one of the Commander Masters decks. That's how bad this one is. So you might be wondering why it's so bad. Well, first and foremost, let's actually talk about the face commander, because I had been testing him using a proxy, thinking, oh yeah, he'll be fine as like a food chain commander or like any of that. He's not. He's actually terrible about it, about the entire process. So first and foremost, let's get the elephant out of the room. Rad counters are the most brain-dead, lukewarm milk taste mechanic they've ever put out, and I can't believe someone actually allowed this. Let's actually go through why they're bad. Okay, so in Magic, there are a couple of ways to win. One of them, or two of them that are related to this video, are mill and poison counters. Mill works in that you take the top card of their library and put it in the graveyard or exile. And how it wins is you take their entire library, and when they go to draw and they have no cards in library, they lose the game. Poison works in you have 10 poison counters. If you have 10 poison counters and you're in the game, you lose the game automatically. What rad counters try to do is combine them and make them work together. However, because they take the worst parts of both, which is losing the life with an ability you can't interact with, and then also milling cards. So as casual players, a lot of casual players don't like milling cards, and a lot of casual players don't like dealing with infect. This takes both of those like weird mechanics and like why people hate them and combines them into one terrible mechanic. And the entire mechanic is built off of it. And if that wasn't bad enough, the Mothman himself also makes you a victim of that. So as a face commander, he's terrible, he's dog water, he's dog poop. At this point, we should probably have the editor pull up a dog meat counter every time I say dog something, or it's a pile of junk. This entire deck is just junk. Moving on to the second face commander, the Master. One of our executive producers asked that I specifically mention this, for the express reason that this is important. As someone who is a fan or editor of Fallout, the Master is not only not represented in this card, this is some weirdo Wizards of the Coast fan fiction that they and Bethesda came up with, that they are trying to make work but doesn't work because none of his mechanics are represented. None of who he is as a character is represented in the card. You would have been better off having a thing that destroys other things and brings them back as mutants as a just generic thing as the master than whatever they're trying to do with the actual card of the Transcendent. Okay, so now that the two elephants or mutants in the room are addressed, let's talk to the actual rest of the deck. Okay, so I mentioned rad counters being bad, right? Because they have you lose life as well, and they put you under, and both of your commanders put you under the kind of spotlight of that, sort of. Here's how I know whoever built this deck is evil, and at this point, I'm assuming Wizards is trying to spite me. One of the cards in the deck reads, instead of losing life, you gain life when you mill off of the rad counters. Why don't both the face commanders have that? Or any way to like profit off of these rad counters in the first place? That makes no sense. That is absolute doo-doo dog water design. And so the issue then becomes, why would I build this as like, put this in the 99 of something when there are better options for every self-mill deck? Sidisi, the Abzan commander from Ikoria, Cathril, any Hermit Druid deck that isn't in these colors. And so those are all just much better choices that you could build for much cheaper than what you would be paying for this deck, and it's not even close, and you would have a better product. Now, the rest of the deck is like very sloppy and like junky in terms of like, you have proliferation, you kind of have mill, you kind of have +1/+1 counter synergies, but none of it's works together. It's all, to quote my friend Noah, super xenophobic. None of the themes pull together in a way that the other three decks kind of can come to a consensus around. Like, if I were to describe this deck in 3 words, I can't. But if I describe the Caesar deck, it's sacrifice tokens advantage. Dogmeat deck, auras, junk, enchantments. The science deck, energy, artifacts, and more energy. That's all those decks want to be doing, and kind of like some like utility stuff as well. But that's all, like those, like for the mutant deck, there is no synergy for this. And so tying this back to the Mothman paradox, it's like I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, like we really, as the like resident Sultai player, we really can't be like getting anything good. Like the only good card I think to come out of this was Radstorm, and even then there's better options, because at like higher power, it's not really going to be doing much, and at lower power, this isn't going to be doing much as well. And so what do I mean by that? Well, at higher power, it's a food chain deck, and there are much better food chain options, 100% that you could build cheaper right now. For example, First Sliver, you could build cheaper than what you would be paying for this deck at this moment in time and still have a better product. Another good example, the new dinosaur from Ixalan, Pantlaza, better deck, 100%. For the amount of money I could spend on this deck, I could build that deck and still have it be a better functioning deck. Okay, so the last take then from this is that it's like, okay, so it's not synergistic and it's not like well-built commanders that you're paying for. So what do you get out of this deck? Nothing really. It's like a way worse value than the other two. One's 420, one's 360, and the other one that was just revealed today is still over 200. This one's only worth like 150 at the most, especially since this is before all of its reprints just dropped. Like, I'm pretty sure for our like $150 deck budget thing, I could take this deck as out of the box, which is cool, because that's kind of what I wanted to do with this, to have like a space for competitive people. Shameless plug, I know, but it's so bad I wouldn't. And they were on such a hot streak with all of these other decks, the Ixalan decks, the Eldraine decks. I forget the standard set before Eldraine. I think it was March of the Machines. The March of the Machine decks were better built. And so I'm looking at this and I'm just like, why would they do this? And the only thing I can think of, and the only conclusion I came to, is someone at Wizards is just outright spiting me and laughing at my misery in terms of like me wanting to play with powerful cards and have a deck that I can build around and be powerful, or they're just don't understand what these colors want to do, or someone just really hates Simic, which, I mean, if you came from 2019, 2020, fair, but like also at the same time, please stop having me suffer because someone else did like heinous things to you with Earl in the past. So I come here today and say that like ultimately what you're going to find as like we continue on to this is that it's like green, black, and blue have some of the space for the most interesting card designs I've ever seen and some of the best card designs I've ever seen. Culling Ritual, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, Growth Spiral, Eureka, I think, or Moment of Eureka, Primal Empathy, Emergent Ultimatum, Tassiger, Muldrotha, like these are all really good card designs in terms of like building a color that you can like, color combination that you can actually like run a lot of really interesting and cool builds. But WotC keeps giving us dog water, dog poop commanders that don't work with it. And I'm frustrated. I'm not even mad. I'm just like that meme of like, wow, I had zero expectations and I'm somehow still just disappointed. So rant over. TLDR, please don't buy the Mutant Menace deck. Disclaimer, I'm buying it because it's sentimental to me because it's the first video we had that blew up and I'm very appreciative of that. So I am sentimental to the Mothman Commander as a concept, but as a card, oh, it's absolutely dog water. It puts you as a target and it's not worth the money in terms of the value you'll be getting from it. So with that being said, that's VDK here. I hope y'all have a great night and I will see you later.